Welcome back, fans. It's your Torchbearer Jose and Torchbearer Kyle here with another episode of Let Your Geek Flag Fly. Last of Us, on the whole, finally coming full circle. Thoughts?
My thoughts are, we had a very successful season one. While I do have some minor complaints and drawbacks, I think overall very successful, very intriguing, a lot of highs, and leaves me wanting more. And I'm excited to wait, and get into season 2 as soon as it's released. That's my thoughts.
No, and I mirror the thoughts. I think on the whole, it was a very beyond enjoyable. They got the highs that I was hoping they would get. Didn't have too many lows, just a few minor things that I would have liked to see maybe done differently. But good Lord, let's just get it out of the way.
Okay.
In an awesome, and I'm going to say awesome because on the whole, I thought it was an awesome series. Definitely a good first step in a season of a show based off a video game. Okay, in general. But let's get the obvious out of the way. This I'd say was history making in a couple different ways. But one way, which I think was totally not expected, was this had one of the most divisive episodes I've ever seen. And the hell with this video game. Any series I've ever seen on TV, this has one of the most divisive episodes I have ever seen in any kind of media like this.
I agree. Obviously, I'm knowing you're referring to episode 3 here, which I want to just touch this right here. On a whole, an amazing episode.
Yes.
The talent that was displayed on that from everyone involved.
Remarkable.
Phenomenal. Storytelling was great.
Yes.
My only issue with it is it was an isolated episode in what is already a very small series that did not move the story along at all. It is literally
it was its own story. It was its own story,
which is a great story. I would have much rather have seen them do that in like a 2 or 3 episode miniseries.
See, I was thinking the same thing.
And I think you could have expanded that, really gotten the performances out of it, and had that background on the story of going on in that world outside of it. But I found that I would much rather have seen an actual episode moving the story along, incorporating different things that had happened from the game. And for those of you who haven't played the game, spoiler alert there as well, the whole sequence playing with Bill was huge.
Yes, it was.
That was also the first time you encounter a bloater, which
Very
would
true.
have been an amazing sequence to see on television.
I mean, yeah, there was the school bus sequence, everything leading up to that. I mean, it's one of those in the episode. Yes, like Kyle said, the episode was a good episode. It was awesome storytelling. It moved me. Look, it brought a tear to my eye, such to the point that I feel like we got robbed of seeing. Like you said, I think they would have done better to build on that episode as a mini series in between season 1 and 2 as a filler, so that way we're not having to wait so long to season 2.
That would have been a great way to do that as well.
But like you said, there was so much, and like I said, this is not a complaint about the episode. Like we were saying, we give props to the episode. It was a great episode. It was great storytelling. But when you put it as part of a bigger series, it kind of was a bit of almost of a stall. It's kind of like, okay, this is good, but how is this going to interplay with Joel and Ellie? And it didn't.
No, it
didn't. Whereas in the game, it did. And there were such sequences in the games, like he's talking about, that were so awesome. And I mean, there's times that I rage quit during these sequences. The one key one in general, in specific, Joel upside down, having to fight off infected.
Oh yeah, that would have been a very cool cinematic sequence to incorporate into that show.
Yeah,
would have been phenomenal to watch and see how they did that, and to see Pedro Pascal hanging upside down doing that would have been really cool.
It was all yeah.
But I don't want to continue to stay sidetracked here because again, we're talking about the whole series. Yes. We don't want to talk about all of that. Let's talk about some of the stuff they did well as the minor critiques here. So let's kind of segue into that, if you will. So you start off in the first couple episodes, you're up. The next couple episodes kind of drop it down a notch. Then you go up and it kind of plateaus a little bit before the finish. My only issue with that was I would have rather had a more consistent pacing throughout the whole series to keep me drawn in, keep me focused on what was going on, and to make that be, just how the show is received, what you can expect each episode. With that said, I was thoroughly shocked and just in awe with the second to last episode.
Oh God!
When they brought in David and his crew,
I was nervous how they were going to. I was actually nervous,
right?
Considering, especially we've already referenced the third episode. How is this one going to go?
Right, that one could be so cringy.
Oh,
and
could be. I think it was.
Well, listen to what I'm saying. It could have been so cringy if they did it wrong.
Oh,
but because they did it right, you had the cringe, but you also had the drama and the full essence of what was going on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was to me that was my favorite episode of the whole series. It really was.
Yeah, I can see that. But I can see why. But you said something interesting though. The episode itself, as we received it, yes, you got the cringe factor, you got the drama, you got the emotion, okay? But you said something interesting a second ago. You said, could you imagine the cringiness had they gotten it wrong? And had they not gotten what they needed to get? The episode, I think, was, like you said, successful. Yeah. They got it right. They got it. Everybody was happy with it for what it, as you can be happy with such cringe. But what I'm getting at is, imagine if they didn't. What would could you imagine what the complaints would be? Hey, he didn't try to do stuff to. Oh well, never mind. I can't say that. It's like how would you complain about them not getting it right?
I don't want to even think about it. To be honest with you, but my thing when I say that if they gotten it wrong is if they didn't capture that essence from the game. Mm-hmm. Because what they portrayed in that episode, again, like I said, you obviously had the cringe and the creepiness of David, especially David, but also what you got to see Ellie on her own, see just how badass she can be.
Yes.
You got to see Joel coming back from seemingly the dead, if you will, and again, being his normal badass self. And then the other part of it, though, is the fact that everybody was, if you didn't know the story and what was coming, if you didn't play the game, because that was, a lot of it was almost shot for shot from the game. Most people are expecting Joel to come in and be the hero, the savior. He wasn't.
Ellie
saved herself.
Exactly.
And you saw just how violent she can be. And
you saw that transformation.
Right. And then another thing that I thought they did fantastically well with that episode specifically was after that violent outburst by her, when she just lost it and went nuts, is to see her emotionally almost break after it.
Yep.
Because she's in shock.
And what she just did, yeah.
And I got to give Bella Ramsey a lot of credit for that. Because she portrayed that shock, I thought, very convincingly.
Oh, no, yeah.
I was sold. I was in. You had me completely engaged in that episode.
And let me specify, the shock isn't just a shock of, hey, I just went through this hell. No, you can tell it wasn't just a shock of what she went through. It's the shock of where did she have to go up here and in here to survive? I mean, just almost like a self-realization of what monster did I have to become? What have I become to survive this?
Right. I mean, even more so because this is bodes what's coming up in season 2. How much of a monster can she be?
Yep.
Because that's the thing is I think especially if you don't know the source material, you're watching the show, you see this young girl, you see she's got an attitude and a foul language, full mouth, but in general, she's still a little girl.
Yeah.
Right. And you'd look at that as, unfortunately, stereotypically speaking, as somebody who's in need of assistance, help, not able to stand on her own. And what you got in that episode, which again pushes further on, is she's perfectly capable of standing on her own.
Oh yeah,
and in ways you may not be ready for.
It's not. I take it even one step. You realize in that episode, especially to your point, as an audience member, which we had, we actually were watching this in a bit of a watch party with some people.
Oh yeah,
and we did have a mix of people who had played the game, had not played the game, and for the people who did not play the game, I think this is. I kind of enjoyed watching it with people who hadn't played the game because you got to see. We were expecting we knew what to expect to some degree.
Yes.
Okay. But with watching this with people who did not know what to expect, it's not so much that you see that she can handle herself. I think it's more than that. You see that she's a force to be reckoned with.
Oh yeah. And just so for clarity here, for those of you who watched our last episode talking about the first episode, at that time I had not played the game. I can assure you, right after that episode aired, I did play the game.
He's rectified the situation.
And I played parts of part 2. I haven't finished that one yet, but enough.
And now he's ahead of me.
Yeah, well, those of you who've played part 2 and know what's coming, I've made it to at least that part. So, yeah, I needed to pause after that. I'll leave that alone.
No, I got you. So, like I said, I'm excited for season 2. And same thing, just like we saw her. So here's the irony. We saw her become what she needed to become to survive. Mm-hmm. We also saw a resurrection in Joel of what it is to be that father figure that he's been fighting the whole season. He didn't want to. He did not want to develop feelings, or he did not. Even in the game, you could tell exactly. Yeah. You could tell he was. But when he finally, at the point where they reunited, and he said to her, "Baby girl." Which is
that was at that scene when she emotionally broke.
Exactly.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
He calls her the name that he called his daughter in the first episode, baby girl. And I mean, as fathers, okay,
I definitely can relate.
That was a very telling moment from Joel's point of view.
Oh yeah.
Because as she was breaking, the tough the tough side of him that buried that father a long time ago broke. And through the cracks came that father again. So for that's him saying baby girl to her meant a lot more than just trying to comfort her. It came from a place that he had buried.
Well, again, I love that, but it's also taking what was a character in Joel who throughout this season, at this point, you saw, like you said, little cracks here and there, but for the most part was a very hard character.
Yes.
And so what you got to see some of that softer side that he used to have as a father coming back out.
Yes.
And it added more depth to his character. It made him a more well-rounded character for the whole series.
I agree.
For everything involved. And that's a huge thing when you're storytelling, is to make sure that you have characters that you can relate to.
Exactly.
That you can recognize. So I think, again, very successful season 1.
Oh, no, I agree. I'm excited for what season 2 is going to bring us.
Yes.
I just hate the fact that we got to wait as long as we have to wait.
Oh boy.
So before we get off on this one, this season was 9 episodes, memory serves, right? So what do you think of the length? Not, and I say length, I don't mean like of each episode, but as far as the length of the season being 9 seasons, I think that was a good length. It wasn't because there's one thing, my pet peeve, which my pet peeve is with any show, is every show, whether it's 9 episodes or 24 episodes, however long the season is, I'm not a big fan of the filler episodes, even though I understand their need. I'm fine with it as long as they somehow at least intertwine or just give a little connection to the center storyline. There's been plenty of shows I'm not going to go into that fail at that the filler episodes has absolutely nothing to do, and it's more of a distraction and a detraction. Which one of the shows that did it right, in my opinion, which I know you're going to agree with me, is Babylon 5. I'm going to leave it there. I'm just going to say there. But no, as far as the length of the season, I think 9 episodes is good. What are you hoping they stay around that, or are you hoping they do more?
I don't necessarily have a problem with the 9. My problem was because you mentioned the filler episodes. You basically had a single filler episode in this, so it was really only 8. Like you said, I would rather have had just the 8,
and
so that it was a consistent without this outlier. And then, tell the other story separately. But I don't have a problem with 9 in and of itself. I would just like to have seen, there was a couple things, again, that we already talked about that they omitted that was in the games.
Yes.
But also there was a couple things at the ending, especially the last episode, I felt was in some ways very rushed.
Yeah, I know. I can.
Right.
Yeah, I can.
And so if you're going to rush things, I think that takes away from your storytelling. It takes away from everything you're putting out there just a touch. They did it well, don't get me wrong, but it was rushed. I would rather them taken that time and have that extra episode to have that fleshed out and be told properly, and when the sequence being presented in that manner, so that you don't have that rush, you don't lose just that little bit, and you have a more complete storytelling with a better overall pacing and not feeling like breakneck. And then, okay, by the way, here we're at the end. Click. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's to have that fleshed out a little bit more. Again, it's taking sequences that were in the game that were actually in depth, take a lot of time to play, and work through. And like you said, were not the easiest of content in the game and cause you
Yeah.
to rage quit, but
For real.
have those shown in a cinematic experience that fit that narrative just fine. So that's my thing. If you want to go 9, that's fine, but utilize all 9 episodes for your story.
Okay, but you think anything any longer would have been detrimental, or
I could have seen them going to a 10th episode and being just fine.
Gotcha.
If you would have gone much longer than that, yeah, it would have been detrimental because then you're adding in filler, in which case that would have taken away from the overall story at that
I
point.
agree.
Again, then we're instead of talking about 1 episode being an outlier, we're talking about 3. You know what I mean? And that really breaks down. One of the things I
agree,
enjoyed
yeah.
about the storytelling was the pacing in general, with the exception of, like I said, those episodes like 3 and 4. I think it is. I'd have to go back and make sure this is accurate, but around that time, it you started off, you built up, and then dived right back down before you built back up and kept going.
No, I can see
And
that.
so
I
that's my
get
thing
that.
is have it so it's a more consistent. You can have your ups and downs to give you a break in here and there, but you don't want it to necessarily be an entire episode.
yeah,
You know what I
'cause-
mean? Keep it going,
yeah.
keep it moving, keep me on the edge of my seat, keep me entertained.
No,
You
no,
know,
yeah. I mean, keep us around this core. You can do little things here, but make sure you can bring it to the core.
Right.
But no, overall, like I said, I liked it. Even the Outlier episode, like I said, in itself was a very, very awesome episode. But the more I think about it, like you said, the more I think it would have been cool to develop that as its own little mini series, like Last of Us, Bill and Frank.
That would have been a
3-4 episode,
I'm
even 6
in.
episode
I'm watching.
thing. Heck yeah.
Again, that's my thing.
Because I felt there was a lot they could have done. Because I guess that's my thing is, even though they did it as 1 episode, and it sounds like we're complaining, saying it was too much of a filler, it's kind of the opposite. We're saying we liked it. I think I would have actually rather seen something more that centric as a filler for between the seasons.
Yeah.
So now I have to wait almost a year to get a more of a fix of Last of Us. But
And you could
no complaints though.
But see, the concept of that though would have been amazing because you can take not just Bill and Frank's story.
Yeah.
You could tell other stories too. You could go and tell a story of Joel and Tommy
Yes.
before the prequel leading in the gap, that 20-year
Yeah,
gap.
I mean, yeah,
you could have
that's a
filled
very
that
good
in a little
point.
bit. Or
Yeah.
you could have talked about just Tommy out when he got out to Wyoming and how that civilization
With
came
his
to be.
new- with his
You
now wife, yeah.
You have so many things you could expand upon and tell little side stories. Like you said, a bridge and a filler to keep giving people some just little pieces of content.
More of Ellie growing up in a post-apocalyptic
World,
world. What like she talks about how they went to school. Okay, what kind of school is that?
Yeah.
What is their education in that kind of
more,
world?
Yeah, a little more delving into the world, and you could have really utilized that. And like you said, they could have done it doesn't even have to be a like we talked about Bill and Frank, a miniseries. You could have done an anthology series.
You could. Oh, you're right.
You do it. So since we got how
HBO
long-
Max, pay attention to this.
Here you go. I'm giving you free content. Here,
Yes.
take my idea, please, because it'll entertain everybody.
Yes.
But instead of waiting, another year to year, was it 2 years?
Is it 2 years?
I don't know.
how
It's
far
another
away?
year or two before season 2 hits.
Don't tell
What
me
I'm
2
saying-
years.
Well, it's going to be a minute. They've already said that. My point is instead of having that blank time where you're, let's face it, your show and its thought and connectivity to the popular mythos and the things going on every day, discussion, everything else, dissipates and disappears. And then you have to rebuild it and come back again. This having an anthology series to touch on these little stories that you could tell, the character depth and the building you could do with it, background, whether it's prequels
Exactly.
side or just side stories in general that you could have delved into to make sure the world is still there, make sure
Exactly.
that conversation and,
Yes.
and again I don't even know what the the Last of Us universe. I mean,
Last of Us verse.
yeah, there you go.
There we go.
Well, that's what I'm saying is you could have had all of those little things, and it would have been fun. It would have been interesting and intriguing. You could have brought in again. I know that they're busy. What's his name? Craig Mazin. And,
Yeah.
Neil Druckmann
He will
from-
always be better with the names than I will. Just know that now.
And Neil Druckmann, from Neil Druckmann's the producer and co-creator from Naughty Dog. I know they're busy and got a lot of things going on as well, so it doesn't have to be them. You can bring other people in to have different visions of the world being told and different experiences there. I mean, you're already doing that with different directors anyway, but to have different creators involved, you could have really explored that world and really had some fun with it. And again, bridge that gap in between seasons. If you need that time to get that done, why not?
No, I agree.
Have some fun with it.
Speaking of having fun with it, let us know what you think. Hit us up. Like I said, we'll come at you soon with another, ditty of information or speculation or just, I don't know, topics, man. But let us know what you think. And also, if there's stuff you want us to look at, like we keep saying, let us know. Most importantly, subscribe, please.
That's
Pretty
right.
please.
Hit that subscribe button.
Sugar on top.
Hit
Bam.
that like button.
In the words of Schwarzenegger, do it now. He does it better. Or at least he used to.
Are you calling me out now?
Yes, I am.
Oh, boy.
You got to put the finger on the button and do it. Do it now. Crumb says so.
I don't feel like following that.
Oh, fine, then don't. Anyway, like, subscribe. Let us know what you want to talk about.